Hi everyone, welcome to another GDevelop tutorial, and today we're going to learn a little bit about particles. Okay, so let's start creating our flame torch. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just to create the torch. I just create a new sprite, I call it torch. Okay, add animation, and I quickly draw something really ugly. Okay, just a really simple torch. Okay, something like that. Okay, I think that's alright. I just crop the image, save it, and another thing before closing this, I gonna set these origin and center points to the point where I want my flame to come from. Okay, so I just put it somewhere here, and that should be okay. So close, apply. And here we go, we have our torch. So let me set its Z order to 1. I will explain you what is this and why I'm doing this. Okay, so I'll explain you later. So we have our torch. So next thing I'll need to do is I want to move this torch with my mouse for this specific example. So I'll just double click it, I go to behaviors, add a behavior and choose draggable object. Okay, so that's cool, and let's test this and see if it works. Okay, we can drag our objects here and there. Okay, so next thing we need to do, so if we take a look at you know, my example, we have a few objects here. You know, we have our torch, we have our glow, we have a few smoke effects and the flame. Okay, so if I run the project, we can see all of these objects all together and working well together. Okay, so we have our smoke, we have our flame, and this, you see there is like a glow here. So we will need to recreate all of these things now together. Okay, so let's go to our project. So next thing we're gonna do is we will create the glow. We will just do it quickly in Photoshop. Okay. Okay, so I'll start by creating a new file. I'll put 32 by 32 pixels. 72 resolution, and I'll choose also black background. Okay, here you go. We have our 32 by 32 pixels square. Now we need to create a new layer. This is where we will draw our glow. I'll choose brush tool. Okay, this one. Let's make sure that the hardness is set to 0, and the size, I think 22 pixels will work well. And we need to choose some sort of orange color, because our flame will be orange and red and yellow, so this color will work really well for the glow. And let's just draw here in the middle just by clicking once, right here in the middle. Okay, glow. Okay, we can now center it perfectly. Okay, that's great. And now let's hide the background level. Hit File, Export, Save for Web. Let's make sure it's set to 24 PNG. Okay, PNG 24. Also, let's make sure that the transparency is checked here. Okay, everything else seems to be fine, and let's just save the file and then import it in GDevelop. Okay, I'll call it fire glow. Okay, that should work. Save. Cool. Okay, now we're back in GDevelop, and we'll need to add this glow to our project. So I click add new object, sprite. I'll call it fire glow. Okay, add animation, and we click here on add and search for our file. Okay, fire glow, here we go, we have it here. Before closing this window, let's also here set the origin and center points. So in this case we want to place those two points right in the middle of the object. Okay, this is because we want it to appear on our torch exactly on that point, right? So we have this cross on our torch on the top of the torch, and exactly in that point we'll create the glow effect. Okay, so our canvas in Photoshop was 32 by 32 pixels, so we just do 16 by 16 here then. Okay, apply. Okay, here we go, we have our glow object. Cool, we can remove it from the scene. And the next thing we need to do is to make sure that whenever the scene starts, this glow effect is created at the position we need, and also that it follows our torch when we drag it around. Okay, so first thing, let's create the object in the scene at the beginning of the scene. Okay, so we have already this condition, so at the beginning of the scene, you can find it here, just search for it and you will find it here. Okay, at the beginning of the scene. I have these two things, it's just to resize the window and make it bigger, so if you want to copy that as well, it's fine. So we add another action, and I search for create an object, and the object we need to create is fire glow, and we need to also specify where we want to create it, and we want to create it at the position of the torch. So torch X, and the Y position is torch Y. Okay, so let's press OK and see what happens next. So it created this object at the position of the torch, but there are a few things that are wrong with this. So first of all, the glow effect is behind the torch, and we want to have it on top of it. Second problem is that it doesn't follow our torch at all. So let's fix all of those things. So first of all, let's make this glow appear on top of our torch. Okay, so we add another action, and we call Z order. Okay, so you remember I told you about Z order. This is how we order things, what is in front, what is on the back. So we set the Z order of the fire glow equals, I'll choose a value pretty much high value, something like 10. Okay, now I'll explain you why. So our torch is set to Z order 1, and fire glow is now set to Z order 10. This is because I want to place some more things in between those two layers, so I will want to have things which are on top of the torch but behind the glow. Okay, so that's why I created this range, so I can play with some ranges inside of it. Okay, so that's one thing. And another thing we want to do is actually to make this glow follow our torch whenever we move it. Okay, so for that we need to create a new empty event. As a condition, we leave this one empty because we want it to happen all the time forever, so we didn't have to have any condition here. And in here we just search for position. So position of an object. Okay, this is the one, we click it. So which object we want to position is obviously the fire glow, and at which position we do the same thing as we did at the beginning when we created the object. So we set the position of the fire glow equals to torch X, and we do the same for the Y. Okay, torch Y. Okay, so we press OK, And now if you run the scene, we should have those two things fixed. So the glow is now on top of the torch, and if we move the torch, the glow moves with it. Okay, so that's cool, but now I see another problem. So our glow actually covers our torch, and it doesn't look like it's kind of glowing. I mean, it looks a little bit, but we want it to make more look like a light and not like just a blob of color. Okay, so to fix that, we will be using blend modes. So blend modes are really helpful. Basically, blend mode is the it's an instruction basically on how to blend two layers together. So there are different ones. So basically, there are some blend modes which will make the pixels under the object with the blend mode look more bright or darker, or we can inverse colors. So there are lots of instructions you can give it. So let's search for blend mode of our fire glow, and we have some suggestions here already. 0 is normal, so this is exactly how it is right now. We can choose add. This will make the pixels behind the glow visible actually, and a little bit more bright. So this is a really good one to use for things like light. We can use screen as well, and the multiply will make things a little bit darker. Okay, so I'll just choose one. That's the add. Okay, cool. And now the glow should be a little bit different. Okay, you see, we can see a bit more of the object behind it. I think it's a bit too bright, so I'll just fix that with opacity, so I make this glow a little bit less powerful. So I search for opacity, change the sprite opacity, that's cool. Still fire glow equals, and I put a value here. I think I can put just 99, and that's gonna work. Okay. Okay, that's cool. It's a bit less bright, but and it doesn't look great. You know, it doesn't look great just because we don't have fire yet. But you will see when we put the fire behind the glow, this glow will empower so much the fire effect, so it will look way more natural. Okay, so let's jump to the next part. So now we're gonna start the fun part. Okay, we'll create the actual particle of the flame. So to do that, we obviously go to add a new object, select particles emitter, and we have the screen now open, right? So while I'll be creating the fire effect, I will explain you briefly what each of those things means. So this will give you a good idea how you can use it for your own effects. So obviously, let's call the object, and I call it fire. Okay, particle kind. So we have three kinds of particles by default. We have point, which is just like a pixel, which can be bigger or smaller. We have line, we can draw lines with this one. And we have textured, which allows us to use any type of sprite we want. We can draw it immediately here, okay? But for the fire, I will just use point. That's good enough. This is actually the size, right? So the size, meaning the size of each particle that will be created. So not the whole thing, but just one of the particles. And I'll set it to 2. Okay. So now we can set particle start color and particles end color. So each particle will have a lifetime, right? So it will be created at some point and it will die after a certain amount of time. Okay, so but we can change the particle along the way, right? So we can create it in one color. So the start color, I'll choose something like yellow. Okay, because our fire will be like light and really powerful in the middle. Okay, and while it's dying, each particle will become more red. Okay, I'll choose something actually red. And this will be the end color of our particle. So when it will be created, it's going to be yellow, and when it dies, it's going to be red. Okay. So we have similar thing here for opacity, right? So there is a start opacity and there is end opacity. Okay. So we will start with something really powerful. So we have 200. That's gonna work really nicely. And when it dies, I want it to disappear. I want it to like fade away. So 0 is actually great because 0 means it's transparent and not visible. Okay. We will tick this box, addictive rendering. So this one is actually kind of the same thing we did with the glow. It actually adds blend mode to each of the particles, so when they overlap each other they will kind of give more light and enlight each other, so this is good. Let's keep that one, and let's take this one also, delete when out of particles, so when the particle you know, it's has the end of its life, the system will just delete it, and this is quite good for the performance. Okay. So we done this, now let's actually create our particle. Cool. So maximum number of particles displayed, this is self-explanatory, you know. It will never create at once more than 300 particles, right? So, and I'll keep this number, and that's good. Number of particles in the tank, this means how many particles overall our emitter will have, right? So if we put 10, we will never see more than 10 particles, and after 10 particles our emitter will end. Okay, so in our case we just use -1 because we want to have infinite particles in our tank. Okay, so let's keep -1. Flow of the particles, this is basically means how many particles per second we can create. I think I want this effect to be quite intense, and 300 is actually not that high number, so we can use that. Minimum emitter force, this is you know, minimum emitter force and maximum emitter force. It's basically the power with which we will you know, shoot the particles, so how powerful we want it to be. I think I'll do this something like 25 and 35, that's gonna be alright. Spray cone angle, so this is the angle where we will throw the particles, so it will throw them from 0 to 90 degrees. But you know, this is a flame, we just wanted to point it to one direction, and so I'll change this to 1. Radius of the emitter, you know, it's just the radius of you know, the central point from where the particles are created, and in our case 3 is it's okay, I'll leave it like that. And then we shouldn't touch gravity, you know, in this case. If you actually, for example, put here like 600 and you throw your flame up, it will still go down because we created so much gravity there, so the flame cannot go up, right? So we don't want that, we just keep it 0 here. Friction on particles, this is something like randomness, I would say. I didn't play around with this too much, but it feels like that's what it does. Okay, so I cannot tell you much about this. Particle minimum lifetime and particle maximum lifetime. So this is actually what we talked about before, right? So our particle will be created, and it will be yellow, and it will be 200 opacity, and when it dies it will be red, and it will be 0 opacity. So but what is the time between those two states? So this is exactly where we define this time. Okay, so and it will be in a range of these two values, right? Because we don't want to make each particle doing the same thing, because it will not look natural. So we will give it a range. Okay, so in my case I'll do something like 0.3 and 1.3. okay, something like this will work just fine. Another thing is particle size. This is in percent, right? So this is the actual size of the particle, and this is its maximum size, and the size is 2. So I want our flame to have like to be bigger. So each particle I want it to be bigger, and then when it dies I want it to be as small as possible. So once again, it's kind of similar to opacity, so it's really bright at the beginning and then transparent at the end. We'll do the same thing here, so it's really big at the beginning and really small at the end. So I'll keep 100 here, so it's gonna be 2, and then I'll put 0 here, so it will become very, very small. I will not touch these values because this is for rotation and we have just, you know, squares as particles, so we don't need to rotate any of that. But if you want to rotate things, you can use this, okay? So we set up our flame and now we can hit apply. And here we go, we have our fire. Let's put it here and see what happens. Okay, we have sort of fire effect. It just goes to the right, so this is one thing which is already wrong. We want it to go up, okay, and it's not attached in any way to our torch, okay. But that's fine, we will now actually do that. Okay, so let's remove it from the scene and let's go to our events. So in the same way we did with the glow, we need to create this particle at the position of the torch and make sure it follows the torch every time we move it. So first thing, let's create an object. Okay, so create an object, fire, and always the position of the torch. Okay, torch X. Okay, and torch Y. That's great. So we created it there. We also want to make sure we set the Z order. You remember Z order, so we don't want it to appear behind the torch. So for this particular object, particle, I want it to appear above the torch, but behind the glow, okay? So the torch is Z order 1 and the glow is Z order 10. So for the fire, in order to be in the middle, I'll choose something like, so first of all Z order, and I will choose equals to 5, because there will be also the smoke, which I want to be somewhere there in the middle. Okay, so I'll put 5 here. Cool. And now let's make sure the torch, so the fire is following the torch. Okay, so position of an object, fire equals to always torch dot X. Okay, and same thing here, torch, oops, that's not the one, torch dot Y. Okay, so let's press OK. It feels like we did the same things for the glow and the fire, and let's see what's going on right now in our scene. Okay, so it follows the torch. You can see already that the glow affects really nicely the flame itself. But we have a problem. You know, it goes to the right. It seems like there is strong wind from the left side. Okay, we don't want that in this example, so I'll show you how to actually rotate the flame to the right position. Okay, so I didn't find any setting here in this panel to do that, so we will need to do that through the events. Okay, so at the beginning of the scene, we want to rotate that. Okay, so let's search for it. So particles, let's choose emission angle. Okay, so this is the one, and let's try that one. So let's choose fire here, equals, and value must be the value of the, you know, degrees. Okay, so if right side is 0, down is 90, left is 180, and up should be 270. Okay, 270 degrees. Let's hit OK, and let's see if that helps. Okay, now it looks nice. Okay, that's cool. And you know, the flame actually looks quite nice now, but I'm not happy yet. Okay, so I actually want to create some smoke there as well. So I'll show you how to do that. In order to do that, I will not be creating a new particle from scratch. You know, I have already fire, so I think I can use this particle and just change it a little bit in order to make a smoke out of it. So I'll just right click it and choose duplicate and call it smoke. Okay, I open it up, and I still keep this particle kind as point, I will change the size of it quite drastically. I want the smoke be quite big, so I'll put 12 here. Okay. So now we need to change the colors. Okay, so I want the start color to be something really dark and gray. Okay, something like this. And the end color even darker. Okay, something like that. But no worries, it will be kind of brighter because we'll be using additive rendering. So when it overlaps, it will actually become brighter, and at the end it will become a little bit more dark. Okay, so let's keep this two and let's make these two colors quite dark. I want it to be a bit more transparent than 200. I don't want it to be too white, you know, when they overlap each other. So I'll put something like 130 here, or maybe like 150, okay? And I'll still want it to, you know, fade out, so I'll keep 0 here. I want to reduce the amount of particles for this one, okay, because, you know, smoke will be a little bit bigger and a bit less. So I'll put something like 20 maybe here, and that's gonna be fine. I still want it to be infinite, so that's good, but I want it to be a bit more powerful because I want the smoke go a little bit higher than the fire. So I'll just put like 30 here and 40 here. Okay. Spray angle should be the same. We can keep the same radius. We should leave the gravity, of course. I'll add some more friction to the particles, so it's a bit more like, you know, randomized. I just put 12 here. So I wanted to leave a little bit longer than our fire. Okay, so I'll just put here, I put it here before 1.3, but I'll put here 1.4 now. Okay, and with this one we do an interesting thing. We inverse these two things, because for the smoke, difference from you know, flame, I wanted to start a little bit smaller and then become a little bit bigger. So I'll literally do here 0 and now 100 here. Okay, so let's hit apply and put our smoke here and see how it kind of looks. Okay, okay, we have some sort of smoke here, right? And now obviously we need to attach it to our flame. Cool. So let's remove that, and you know, we do exactly the same thing as we did for the fire. And actually, a quick tip how to do it really quickly, to not create each action separately. I just copy all of this, holding Shift K and clicking here, and now I just go copy and paste all of those here. I'll need to quickly reorder these because I need these things to happen in a precise order. So first of all, I want to create the object, then I want to change its Z order, and at the end I want to rotate it to the right angle. Okay, so but one thing we need to change here is, instead of fire, we select smoke for each of those things. Okay, cool. And I also want to choose a different Z order. I want the smoke be on top of the flame itself. So I'll just put 6 here, because the smoke, the fire is 5, and the smoke I want to be 6. Okay, so we created the object, and now we need to make it follow as well. So once again, I just select this, I copy and I paste, and the only thing I do, I just replace fire with smoke. Okay. And now let's try to run the scene and see how that looks. Okay, I think this looks quite nice. What do you think, guys? It's a nice, you know, torch effect. I mean, you can play with the settings, you can change colors, you can add more particles. You know, there's lots to experiment with the particles, but I hope you now understand a little bit better how they work in GDevelop and how to use them. So if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, check my other videos, and also please suggest what you would like to see next in the comments below. And you can also join my Discord channel or follow me on Twitter to know a little bit more about my own game I'm working on right now. And thanks for watching, and see you again next time.